We're all here.
Okay. I just wanted to go over, did everybody get share?
Uh-oh. We lost the phone.
Totally cut out.
That did cut out for a minute.
Okay. Did everybody get Cheryl's notes?
This is Sharon. I did not, but Cheryl Sanderson forwarded them to me.
Okay. Okay. And I just wanted to make sure the past practice has been that the board clerk sends those out. After each session, we both look at the notes and agree upon them, and then the board clerk has sent them out to the staff.
To which staff? All staff?
Correct.
After each, well, you've done it differently in the past, so I would say we would send everything out at the end. Or you want it out after each meeting?
Well, I mean, we can agree upon it or decide, but because we used to do it a full day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that much, and we're not doing full days. So, you know, we just need, that's just how we've done it in the past. Was the board clerk last year sent them out after each day. So, however.
Well, I would probably at least make sure everybody on the committee has agreed to the notes, that they're accurate or whatever, and then they can be sent out. Or I'm used to more being sent out once agreements are made, but.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to. And I think that's probably what
It doesn't matter.
done. Yeah.
In this case, you guys met and resolved everything in 2 days.
Right.
Instead of dragging it out over multiple meetings. So, I mean, I don't have a problem sharing it with everyone, but I think we do have questions on the notes from this meeting, from the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on number 8, I thought we agreed to leave the language as is. We didn't agree to add the MEA president shall be included. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia.
I'm pulling it up too.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we were going to get back on that. Is that oh wait.
Where the
What
MEA
is that?
president shall be included in meetings and information.
Oh, on
yeah.
Mentor.
Yeah, we didn't agree to add that language. We said leave it as is because currently the MEA president had been in on a few of the meetings already without.
Sorry, this is Cheryl Keesley. So yeah, I had in my notes that you said that was supposed to happen anyway, so there wasn't any objection to having that in the language since it was supposed to happen.
I don't think it's required.
I don't think it's required. We've just been letting it happen.
So maybe we can just revisit that when we get there, because it sounds like on our end, we want to leave it, but it sounds like we might need to discuss that one more time.
Okay.
Okay, so I just put that down that number 8 needs to be revisited. Correct? Okay.
Yep. Okay. That way we can make it official.
Were there any other questions? Were there any other questions on the notes?
I'm just looking because I only just received them.
Oh, okay.
And could someone, I don't have a copy of them either, could someone forward me a copy? I'm fine with Cheryl and Sharon looking at them, but that way I have some too.
Yeah.
This is Cheryl. I'm sorry I didn't have you on the list. I thought I was just sending them to Cheryl Sanderson and that she was sharing them with both of you. So I'll make sure that I add you. That was just a
Oh,
misunderstanding.
that's okay. Because I think we were gonna collaborate notes, so that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's what I thought, that Sanderson was also doing notes. So I will fix that for next time.
Thanks. I think part of it is because she left to go to that other meeting, and so we just never followed up.
Yeah, I wasn't aware, so.
Okay, Alicia, you should have those now.
Thank you. So just to clarify, moving forward, is Cheryl Keithley the one taking notes and she'll send them out to all of us who are participating and then we'll all verify them together
Yes.
and then they'll go out to staff?
Yep,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. I like how you take notes, Cheryl Keithley. This is very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready to continue on, or are we still reading minutes?
I'm ready.
Or, okay, sorry, I have dogs barking.
That's okay.
So is that only the one issue for the notes? Other than that, good.
I think so. All right, Shannon, we'll let you continue leading like you did last week.
Okay, alrighty. So I'm just going to go through the agreement again where we left off and had needed to come back on things that were brought to the table, starting with actually, the first thing we started with was the, well, actually, on here, if we just go through page to page, the first one was the volunteer, adding volunteer onto page 10 of the extracurricular pay and specials. Okay.
Yep, on number 7. Go ahead.
Okay, so we just needed some more clarification on that. As far as volunteering for coaching, because we have coaches that volunteer all the time. So we're not actually sure why this needs to be put into the negotiated agreement when coaches volunteer. We have them volunteer there a lot. We have positions that volunteer.
Well, actually, that's not the case with our head coaches and assistant coaches that are part of this agreement.
No, we do have assistant coaches that volunteer, but not head coaches. Yes, that is correct. But we do have people, and they call them assistant coaches when they are volunteering. They just call them an assistant coach, but they may not receive a stipend. So I guess we need clarification on, you're wanting a coach to be a volunteer that does not receive a stipend, but is a head coach. Is that correct? I just am clarifying.
Alicia, do you want to take that one or?
Yeah, and part of the concern, I guess, that looking forward could possibly be financial. If we get to a situation where financially we can't pay coaches, we want the ability, extracurricular is one thing that's going to get hit first. And if it's in the master agreement with no option otherwise, I guess, then we feel like we needed to have that ability that we could have for volunteer. But at the same time, we spoke with our attorney and needed to make sure that they go through the same process as an actual coach, meaning they would have to be interviewed. They're an at-will employee, even though they're not employed per se, but they have to follow the same procedure for the safety of the student.
Okay, and they would sign the supplemental contract as well?
I don't know if we talked about
We don't have welcome coaches signs.
signing a contract. I do have some proposed language I could run by you if that would be helpful.
Well, actually, I spoke to several coaches about this, and they were all very against adding a volunteer position because, number one, what Middleton pays already for coaches is not what other districts pay for coaches. So we're already behind. We lag behind in compensation for coaches. And if we put language in there for volunteer coaches, they're worried about their positions as far as a volunteer. They want compensation. They want to be paid. And they're also concerned about what would happen, what coaches are we going to recruit or get if it's a volunteer position rather than Valley View or Caldwell or any other district that pays their coaches? So they were very, very concerned about putting any language like that in. Did you find, I mean, in a district as large as ours, and if we go to 5A in 2 years or whatever, language where they do have volunteer coaches?
I personally have not, and I do understand their concern. But just knowing financially what's happening across the state as far as money goes right now, no one might be able to pay any coaches. And so that's something that we were trying to be a little proactive on. Nothing's been said for sure, and we don't know. And if I understand correctly, and Cheryl can help me if I'm wrong, but if it does come to that, we could always, if it's a financial hardship, reopen negotiations and talk about it then. If it becomes to be that's an area that will not be funded. So I'm fine if we want to just leave it off for now.
Well, and I also looked at policy 5002, and it would be, if we had volunteer coaches, it would also go against our MSD policy to have a volunteer head coach. That's another consideration. And then if a volunteer coach wouldn't be, I mean, a liability for the district, it would be a liability. That's why we're also like, that surprises us that you would bring it forward because of the liability issue too. A volunteer coach isn't covered. They wouldn't receive the workman's compensation if like they fell down and broke their arm or, you know, something like that. So there were several reasons we were not comfortable with putting that in there. And especially after talking to the coaches, and I spoke to an athletic director, not ours, but one from another district, similar in size, and she was also, she was not accepting of the language either at their district. But I mean,
sorry, this is Keith Lee, really quick, just wanted to jump in. Some parents that had been listening last time also expressed concern about what language like that would do to the competitiveness of our sports program, which kind of what Shannon mentioned, but just so you know that there were parents that saw that as a potential problem.
Okay, well, I'm fine leaving it how it is right now, how it's written, and not changing it at all, if that's okay with Sharon and Cheryl.
Yeah, we're good for now.
okay.
So this is,
And then,
sure, I got this written right. So we're agreeing that it's fine to leave that the way it is now?
Yes, so we won't be adding any verbiage for volunteer coaches.
Okay.
And that's a not, N-O-T, not adding.
Got it.
okay, and then on the next page, page 11, where it talks about leadership pay, and we had discussed there the language in the parentheses that reads currently, one of which will be a MEA member. And I was thinking about that language as well as if you go to page, towards the back here, page 27, it says if you look on professional work year / calendar, it also talks about committee, and it says a committee shall be formed consisting of the following stakeholders. Number one is at least 2 representatives from each of the 6 schools, comma, one of which is a MEA representative. So that language there, at least 2 from each school, one of which is an MEA representative, that language and this language, one of which will be an MEA member, is the same language. So I know, Sharon, Dr. Rivera, you were going to look at, I think you were going to speak to somebody about this and how it the committee currently is at this time. But we were thinking if we just added a section like right before at the end, so it'd be right before D on page 27. And if we added a section there that just said committees, and then just adding the verbiage, the MEA shall have at least one member from each school on all district committees.
All district committees is pretty loose.
Yeah, that leaves it very wide open, because right now, the leadership pay or stipend, that committee is made up of the DLT members, which there are 2 from each building and one is an MEA member already.
Okay, so,
But it doesn't
Because
the DLT committee.
No.
It's just a committee.
the DLT is just a committee.
okay, and are there subcommittees though? Within that committee?
On the DLT, yes, we broke into subcommittees this year.
Okay, so to make sure, okay, go ahead.
The subcommittees were made of the same group of people, correct?
Yes, it was the same group of people. Yep.
So they would have had the same representation from the association.
Okay, so, okay, this talks about leadership pay, which is the district leadership team. So will the district leadership team be continuing on as one team or as multiple teams? Or just because in the past, the district leadership team was one team that decided all of the issues or concerns, and now it's subcommittees, correct?
So we met as a whole group and then we were breaking into subcommittees so that we could not need to pull teachers out all day for how many ever days it met, but then coming back together in the spring as a whole committee again. And it's the same group of people that were decided, and we gave them the opportunity to choose which subcommittees they were sitting on.
Okay, so,
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask, so does each of those subcommittees have an MEA member on it?
Yes, they should have. As best that we know, I don't have a list of MEA members, but
okay, so on the language here, then, one of which will be an MEA member, are we, what about, so is the language, do we understand that language that one of each of the 2 teachers, right, because there's 2 from each building, are an MEA member, correct? Is that?
that's my understanding.
So can we make, okay,
Can I suggest some wording that might help clarify that?
yes, please.
Why don't we, so what if we just change, shall consist of 2 teachers from each school, and then if we want to put elementary, middle, and high school, one of which shall be an MEA member.
Specific to the leadership.
Yeah, specific on that.
Okay.
leadership pay. Yep.
Yeah, so just in that paragraph B, just instead of shall consist of teachers representing, we'll specifically say shall consist of 2 teachers from each elementary, middle, and high school, one of which shall be an MEA member.
Okay.
Does that fix kind of what we're going for?
Does it need to say one of the two? It seemed like last time we talked about that someone could interpret it as out of all of those, only one had to be a member. So we want to make sure it's one of the two from each school.
I'm
That's
fine with that
correct.
verbiage. Cheryl and Sharon are.
Yeah, you can just add after the word, the number one from each building.
So are we all agreeing to change the language then so it says two from each building with one of each from each building being an MEA member? Everybody's agreeing on that?
That's a yes for me.
Specifically, page 11,
Page-
paragraph
page
B.
11. Yeah.
Page 11.
Paragraph B, right, yep.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good fix.
Was that B or D?
B as a boy. Bravo. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I've got that down.
Okay. All right, moving forward. So on page 12, number 4, we were wanting to strike the words reach the rule of 90. And the word and, I guess. And you were going to get back to us on that, how that would,
Yeah, we're fine with that.
Yeah.
okay.
Does
Okay,
anyone
did you get that, Cheryl? We're in agreement?
All
Do you strike?
right, rule of 90. And the word
Yeah,
and.
strike the words reach the rule of 90 and the word and. So we'll read employees who have worked in the district 5 consecutive years. Well, how it will read, correct?
No, I sent you.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you share that with Oak? I just sent it to you.
Okay, and then, number 5, the school lunches. And we proposed to have 0.20 of a day for $25. And then you, the district was going to take a look at that and get back with us.
So, Cheryl Sanderson did some research for us on that and came up with some verbiage. Do you want to just kind of explain?
Yeah, basically, other districts, and I pulled the wording specifically out of Caldwell's negotiated agreement as a sample, that they do a form, they consider it extra duty leave or extra duty. So if a teacher covers another teacher's class on the middle school and high school level, they would cover after 7, which is 1 full day, they would receive an additional, it's called extra duty leave or a personal day. And there's a form that they fill out to keep track of it. Each teacher that covers another teacher's class, they sign the form. It's submitted well, through permission of the principal. Usually it's done and then submitted to payroll, and someone is assigned an extra duty leave day. And then the teacher that was absent, their time is recorded as leave. So I did send a draft for Alicia and Dr. Reberry to look at last night. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, if we could forward that to the other members.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Alicia, did you have time to look at it?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me that I was concerned about.
Okay, so,
So it's similar to what you said.
actually,
Mhm.
okay, actually, I have it right in front of me as well. The extra duty leave for high school and middle school from Caldwell.
Okay.
And so it says under there, and it is called extra duty leave, when the equivalent of 7 periods of substitute teaching is accrued. So then they teach 7 periods, right? Is that the same at the high school, Cheryl? Is it 7 periods you teach?
It is, yes, here.
So we have prep for 1 period and then teaching
6 classes.
kids in the room for 6.
Correct.
So you have students in the room for 6.
Yeah.
Okay, but a full day is 7 periods though,
That's
right?
correct.
Full day, yes.
Correct.
Okay, okay. So would you be taking the actual verbiage out of Caldwell, that exact language? Was there any?
I think that's what I submitted. I just modified it slightly to address, they use the term the CPE, and I just changed it to certified staff. Just modified the verbiage to refer.
Glenn and Cheryl, you're not able to see this, right?
Let me,
No,
Here, I can.
no, I can't see it.
I can.
But I'm glad we're addressing it because at the middle school it is, I didn't realize it was a big issue. And I did hear back that there are several times that teachers do cover this. So I'm glad we're dealing with this.
I can read it, or I think Sharon was going to email it to everyone
Yep.
as well. But if
Yeah.
you want me to read it,
I'm getting
I'd
it
be happy to do that.
sent right now.
I'm going to actually go ahead and read it just so that anyone, the public that's listening or whatever, can hear it while everyone else is reading it in their email. If that's okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the event that a certified staff member working at the high school or middle school is asked by the building administrator to substitute teach during the regular scheduled school day, the staff member may earn up to 1 day of extra duty leave when the equivalent of 7 periods of substitute teaching is accrued. The staff member must complete and submit the extra duty reporting form to the payroll department. It will be the responsibility of the certified staff members to maintain a record of the extra duty leave prior to submitting the information to the payroll department using the extra duty day form. Extra duty leave will be applied to the staff member who has substituted 7 periods. Sick or personal leave will be deducted from the staff member who was absent. Extra duty leave can only be earned with the following conditions. Sub coverage is not available at a high school or middle school. Emergency situation arises in a building. A substitute teacher is not available. Request is authorized by the building administrator. Extra duty leave shall not be reimbursed, shall be verified by the administrator, shall accrue as earned during the school year, can be used in place of personal leave, can be used in place of sick leave. A maximum of 2 unused extra duty days may be rolled forward to the subsequent school year.
Okay, I have a question. Trustee McConkey, did you read, I thought I heard you say something about will be deducted from?
So the person, sick or personal leave will be deducted from the staff member who was absent. So if you're leaving, whether, for an activity, then it would be activity leave. If it's because you're a doctor's appointment, So the person who's leaving and needs the coverage, it'll be sick time or whatever because they're gone, right? But then the other person will get the extra duty time.
Okay, and that's not in the Caldwell language, is it? Because I don't see it.
I think
It's on their procedures.
it's on their procedures, and I just sent all of you what she was reading from.
So if a coach, go ahead, Cheryl.
Nope, you're saying that that's exactly what I was gonna ask.
So when a coach is gone, because that happens a lot, correct, Cheryl? Cheryl Kingsley?
Yes.
They would be deducted part of their leave?
It would
It's
just
not actually deducted, it's just recorded.
recorded as activity leave. So they're not losing anything, it just gets recorded that they're out on activity leave.
Okay. They wouldn't have to use personal leave or,
No, not if it's a coach leaving. But if I was to go to a doctor's appointment and Cheryl covered for me, I would get docked that point whatever for sick leave.
okay. So, I mean, if somebody's sick that day and a substitute cannot, sorry, you guys. If a sub is, or somebody's out because of sick leave, that is just recorded anyway, correct? That it's sick.
Yes.
So, okay. All right. Glenn and Cheryl, how are you on this?
I have one more question.
I haven't seen the copy yet.
I sent it. I guess it has to go through space, right?
So the second full paragraph, it says, in the event that a certified staff member working at the high school and middle school is asked by the building administrator to substitute teach. So it doesn't usually, at least at the high school anymore, come from the administrator. It's just become, we know that's the process. So let's say I have to leave for 6th and 7th period for whatever reason. I usually just look through the master schedule and say, okay, these people have prep, and I go ask them. We probably need to clarify either the language saying asked by a teacher, or we need to make sure administrators know that they need to take this on now, because teachers have not usually been asked by the administrators, either an individual teacher asking or an email from a secretary asking.
Yeah, and I can make sure that we clarify that with administrators,
Okay.
because they
Yeah,
need
just wanted
to,
make
they
sure it's
should
clear
be,
so it doesn't come back to be a problem later.
yeah, they should know what's going on in their building.
So Cheryl Keithley, I guess, can you clarify for me? So typically, right now, when the teachers just take care of it, does the principal sign off on it, or they just do it and then the principal finds out after the fact? Or how does that work?
So I can't say that it's the same every time for every person. Eventually the administrator knows. Sometimes, they'll be told ahead of time. Sometimes in the morning, the secretary has to send that email out before administrators have even got there. And then as soon as they're there, they find out. So it really just depends on what's happened and what time of the day. When secretaries get there at 6:45 and they've already got a message from a teacher saying I can't be there, they usually get on it really fast to try and fill those spots. So an administrator usually isn't in the building yet.
But the administrator is notified as soon as they arrive or.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the
Yeah.
administrator is typically in the know. This is just making sure that they sign off on all of this.
Yes.
So like right now, I don't think there's, I'm trying to think of a specific example. So if I'm leaving and I've got somebody covering my class, it's usually documented like, hey, I'm going to be gone during 6th period, so-and-so has my class. So that's the way everybody's kind of kept in the loop. It makes it possible for them to know who's with the kids too.
So Sharon, reading this, I almost wonder if it would be best to take that sentence out or rephrase that sentence. And the reason being is, I think that might be more procedural, because in section number 1, it says request is authorized by the building administrator. So we could handle that top part procedurally and leave in the master negotiated agreement that letter D under section 1 to kind of cover that administrative part. But that way, if it's not necessarily the principal requesting them to cover, and it's the teachers taking care of it, I don't know. I just think that flexibility might be good for the principals to have. Just a thought.
So
That's
you're-
kind of what I was thinking, Mrs. Keithley, again, because the way it's worded, it says, I mean, specifically asked by the building administrator. And that's just not usually what happens. They're aware that they're not the ones doing the asking usually.
So are you saying in that first sentence, in the event that a certified staff member working at the high school or middle school is asked
To
to substitute,
You can take.
we could
by
take
the
out by the building
administrator,
administrator?
Because it is addressed.
Because it is
here.
addressed down below.
Yeah.
So that's
I
fine
think
with me.
that's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there situations that the elementary teachers cover for
Or you could
classes
even
also?
say, yeah, or activities.
Yeah, and I was going to address that
Recorded.
after we kind of went over this language.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn.
Okay, so,
So,
and then
go ahead.
well, no, and then just in that last sentence down there, because where it says sick or personal leave, I would say that we need to make it say sick, personal leave, or activity leave will be,
And you can say recorded.
Will be
because Some is
recorded.
deducted and some are not.
Yeah, when I heard that word deducted from,
Mhm.
yeah. We'll change deducted to recorded.
Okay,
Because it doesn't necessarily apply, yeah.
okay.
Even professional leave is not actually deducted, it's just tracked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how are you, Cheryl and Glenn, on this proposed language?
I'm good. I think it's a step in the right direction.
I agree. Considering where we started, this is a huge step.
You think teachers will feel better with this than a school lunch?
Absolutely.
Nothing against the school lunches. We love those.
No, it's respectful to their time and what they're doing with those students. Usually they're not just sitting in there watching. They really do step in to try and make sure students are getting what they deserve. So respect, definitely.
Great, good. And then I wanted to, so are we all in agreement then that we're going to accept this? We're in agreement, is that correct?
Yes, on my.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, we're in agreement.
But what about elementary? Could we put
Okay.
elementary on there instead of just?
Well, that's
high
what I'm
school,
going to
middle
bring
school?
up. Yeah, so when I brought up for elementary, when the sub is pulled, oh, hurry, let me turn that off. When the, hurry you guys. I still have an old school phone at my house that rings. People don't believe it, but I do. So let me try and get this off. Okay. That just shows you how old I am, okay? So in elementary school, we were discussing, teachers were telling us that when they have these intense focus groups where their instruction, needs to be, it's intervention time, and so it needs to be very intensive, that they have the EAs are pulled from their groups to substitute. And they have, and teachers are planning for these focus groups. They have made lesson plans, spent time making lesson plans. And when the aid is pulled, the EA is pulled, then they have to be in charge of 2 focus groups. And it's a burden on the teachers to have to do this. And so they are really concerned, and this is a issue that is happening frequently. And can we somehow compensate them for having to basically take on more than what they're supposed to be doing at that time?
I'm not sure how to do that, especially with the financial situation we're facing.
Is there, could
Couldn't you
this
just add
English,
to this verbiage,
Yeah, elementary.
elementary teacher, in case they do cover another class?
Yeah, I mean, we could just make this extra duty leave for, just add elementary on there as well, and then they'd have to keep track of, for,
Elementary, they tend to trade back and forth just
Yeah.
amongst themselves, or the building
typically
administrator
that's
jumps
what
in, right?
yeah, typically that's what
Right.
I've seen.
So I don't,
And it does have approval of building administrator,
Yeah,
so it could be monitored by the principal.
yeah, so we could just add the word elementary.
And I think that would include them.
okay, if you could include elementary on, would you just add it to the top then? Or,
how would you
No,
count?
just where it says high school or middle school, just say high school, middle school, or elementary, or and elementary.
And then
And I think it says it in the first paragraph and then down in the one
Or you could
section.
just take out the reference to high school and middle school and just have it
yeah,
like
and we
all
can just take
certified
out
staff.
all certified staff.
Yeah, you could say that.
I'm kind of confused though, because I understand, Shannon, what you're getting about the focus groups and stuff, but that's not the same as when a teacher is physically gone from the building and someone's covering their class, because the EA they're not really covering. Like, I can see if an elementary teacher has to leave the building or has a meeting or has to go to a doctor's appointment and another teacher has to come in and cover, but I'm having a hard time putting them, like looking at them at the exact same. Can someone help me? I'm just struggling with that. I don't understand. Like, I get that they should be compensated if they have to have someone take their class, but they're not asking another teacher to take their class. They're asking to get compensated for time that they should have been with their kids anyways, and they're still with kids. They just have more kids than what they would have had. Is that,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
I'm just,
because
Well, I
it's
think
in the
I'm just
regular
struggling.
classroom.
It's only to cover for a certified staff member. I don't think it should apply to cover for an EA. There's multiple EAs in every building, and they can either shift around or,
but they don't shift around, because that's why
You
we're
can't
short.
afford
We're
to.
short on people. So what they do is they pull, and I mean, those teachers are relying heavily. I mean, this needs to be, like I said, this is intervention time. This is intense instruction, and they have planned their lessons, and they have like several groups within their rooms. And then the EA's pulled, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, now I have to take this group in, and it's actually not best for students. They're the ones that are losing out, actually, you know, when that occurs. But the teacher has planned lessons for each specific group, and then they're absorbing another group, so they have to tailor their instruction to that new group, which is even larger. So they are very concerned about that. We heard about that multiple times on our feedback. And they're just saying, help, please.
Well, and I
For
think,
the sake of the students, yeah.
How many kids are we talking about? You know, in these groups?
It depends, on the level. I mean, you can have a group of like 10 students. You can have a group of 5 students. It depends on their level where they're put into each focus group.
well,
So here's my
But we
concern.
told,
So here's my concern, a couple concerns. Number one is equality across the board. I don't think it's quite the same as someone physically leaving the building versus just having an EA pulled. And I get the time, but my also concern is I want to know exactly how often it's happening, because if the problem is the EAs are getting pulled because we don't have subs, giving everyone a bunch more personal days just means trying to find more
More
subs
subs,
isn't
yeah.
helping
Right.
the problem, because that's not good for students either. And so I need more numbers. Like, I don't know if I feel comfortable just adding it. I agree that they need some type of compensation, but I don't know if that specific incident fits with what we just added for elementary. I think maybe we should look at it this year and track it, come back with numbers and see exactly how much is happening. I think I'm very hesitant to just throw it in there without knowing, because like I said, the sub issue is already an issue. So if all these people have personal days and they can't ever take them because we don't have subs, that's not going to help the situation either.
yeah, and I'm in agreement with Alicia. I need to know how often this is happening so that we can deal with it with the principals
Well, I know-
directly. So,
okay, and I know at Purple Sage, it happens a lot. Like, I would say several times a week where an EA is pulled from a focus group to sub. So I know it is, and it's very frustrating for the teacher, the classroom teacher, who has prepared these plans. And it's especially, affecting, like I said, the students and their focus group instruction time. That is, that's where we really work on those skills with those particular students and their particular needs. So, definitely we have to do something to help with this issue, because it is a big issue.
okay, so this is what I would say. Just hearing everyone, that we still add the elementary on the front so that if they do cover for a certified person, that works. And then we will take a look, get with the principals and talk with them and start to track to see, because we know that we need to do something different for our substitutes anyways. We've been having conversations about that. So I would propose to do it that way. And then we can track and see how often this is happening and work on it from this level.
Okay, so we could still add elementary to this, and if they did cover for a certified teacher, and that does happen, where if the music teacher's gone, I have absorbed her class into my class, but it's not just one period, it's the entire day.
Yeah.
So for the entire day, I would get, these teachers at the high school are covering for just one period. So it is a little different.
We would
Sometimes
maybe
it's
break it up
one
into time
day.
increments.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're covering a crew of 7 days, if you're doing a whole day, that would equal the same, right, as 7
Yeah.
periods. We just have to chunk it out in time.
Yeah, we would probably have we'll have to figure out, work on the forms and how it's collected, but we can do that.
Okay. Okay, and then we can put this in the notes that we will track how often or EAs are being pulled to sub. And we can come back to this. And I mean, I know the teachers are going to say this isn't going to help me, Shannon, or the students.
Well,
But-
we'll be working on it from our end too. We'll look at procedures and things like that we can talk with the administrators about and brainstorm through that.
Okay, that would be greatly appreciated.
This is Keith Lee jumping in really quick. I think if we consider the process that we used for the high school to get to where we are today, we did something very similar. The change didn't come about immediately, and I know that's not what the teachers want to hear, but we did track it for a year to have the numbers and try and work through some solutions on our own before we reached this point.
Right.
And that's true. And they did, I know Mrs. Aswani tracked and came with a lot of data the first time they brought it. And we tried the lunch thing, and now we're here to the time off thing. So I think it is a process, and I appreciate all the work on both sides that it takes to get to a good, solution. And even then, they're modified, they change, the needs change. So I appreciate that.
Okay, so let's go ahead then, and if you can, on your end, the district and help with any way possible so that this isn't happening to students and teachers at the elementary level, and then we can revisit it next year.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Okay.
Alrighty. Do you need any time for notes on that,
Nope.
Cheryl Keithley? Okay.
I got it.
Okay. So let's continue on. Let's see here. Okay, so we are on page 19. Association leave. We wanted to, because of delegate assembly being out of town, out of Boise, we wanted to change that from 11 days to 12. And you were going to come back on, we were going to come back on that, correct?
Actually, I think we agreed that we could change it to 12.
12, okay, alrighty. And okay, now we are on the mentor teacher, page 23, Q, letter Q. And the reason why we brought this language is the mentor teacher program was brought to MEA as a partnership where we work together. And so as a partnership, we just wanted to include the language that the MEA president shall be included to participate in program meetings and information, just to be added. And then we were going to wait. I know Dr. Reberry said that that was already happening. So we just wanted to clarify on here if we could add the language.
I would, let's see, instead of saying MEA president shall be included in meetings and information, I would suggest taking out meetings and leaving it MEA president shall be included in information. And in reality, I believe when this office met with the mentors, the MEA president was invited to those meetings.
Okay, so could we put in an invitation rather than? invitation to meetings?
This is Keithley. If it's going to be a partnership, there at least needs to be an invitation to be in that meeting. Otherwise, there's a big chunk of activity going on and our association's not involved with that.
But they are involved, it's just not specific to the president. Is that right?
Yes.
So at the meetings currently, who sits in on the meetings?
The mentor teachers, Kristen Beck from here, Lisa Pennington, and Katie Anzalone and Kristen Williams. And Jennifer Vickhammer.
Okay, so you have the 3 mentor teachers, and then you have 3 district people?
2 district people, Lisa and Kristen.
Oh, okay, you're not included on those, Dr. Reberry.
No.
Okay, so with the 2 from the district, with Kristen and Lisa, would we be able to at least have an invitation for the president to join in that meeting?
Well, and
What is the
I
purpose of having the president there versus just its members? Can I get clarification on that? Like, what's
mentor
the need or
people,
what's the
teachers,
drive
members?
to feel like if they're involved, it needs to be the president that's there?
Well, just because when Dr. Middleton came to the association, he came to the president of the MEA at that time and said, we would like to form a partnership with the district, with the mentor teacher program. And so actually the MEA president at that time selected, helped the district select the mentor teachers to oversee, but we were included, and we just feel like we're not being included like we were when it originally was formed.
So it's my
And so,
it's my understanding though that both Stephanie and Dave were there for planning the program for this year, and then they were invited back to other meetings. So they have been included.
okay, so we just wanted to add language to make, for that inclusion. That's all we're doing, is just wanting to add the language.
I'm just reading through that again here.
Is the language, Sharon, where is the language you're referring to? Is it in the notes?
Well, I'm rereading what's on page 23Q,
Oh, what they have.
and
Okay.
then the MEA president shall be included in meetings and information.
Or an invitation, or
So what if we say invited at the beginning, as they were this year, to plan forward, and then I don't think there were that many meetings. There are only the one at the beginning and maybe 3 other meetings this year. And then I believe they were included for the end wrap-up meeting. I don't know if it's happened yet or not, but they will be.
I just want
Okay.
to ask a quick question. So if this is happening and everyone kind of agrees that the intent was to have collaboration, why wouldn't we want it in the language just to make sure that it does happen when there's changes in the district and changes in MEA? Why wouldn't we want that in the language to make it clear to everyone?
My concern would be so that it doesn't turn into NEA runs specifically.
Because
Okay.
it needs to be that partnership.
Okay, so what if we added, 2 district employees and the MEA president shall be invited or included in meetings?
Doesn't it say shall jointly maintain a mentor program through a collaborative partnership?
Yeah, the district, because it ends with, the district and the association shall jointly maintain a mentor program through a collaborative partnership of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't that saying the same thing?
To me, that says the same thing.
Okay, well, like I said, we're just, feeling that it's not a partnership, that it is more district driven. And we just wanted to make sure, so I think we're all on the same page. We just want to make sure it's a partnership. All of us do. And that's
I think
why,
we want to just make sure it's a continued thing happening.
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, we'll invite them again at the beginning of the year, next year, and have them be in on those conversations planning forward.
So if we don't add this language, then it is understood that they will be invited. But that's the reason why we're wanting to add the language, is that when we do understandings and discussions, the writing makes sure it happens and it continues to happen.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, that's how I read the last sentence in here. Shall jointly maintain a mentor program through a collaborative partnership of the program. Because ultimately, it does fall on the district for the mentor program. And so doing it in collaboration, like it says there, helps us all move forward.
Okay. Well, so then can we add that language that you suggested, Dr. Reberry? The MEA president shall be included
Well, and it,
yeah, or it was information, something about information.
yeah, I'm okay saying that the MEA president shall be included, shall be provided with information throughout the year or something like that. Because at our monthly meetings that we have with them, we also discuss the mentor program. So it is talked about often.
Okay, so we can you read that again? That language that you just,
MEA president shall be included or shall be provided information throughout the year.
So just a clarification for me, because I'm not on the mentor teacher program. So then the collaboration on making decisions would come from our members who aren't mentor teachers. Is that correct?
Yes.
If the president's just being given information?
Yes, those 3 teachers worked very hard this year with the new teachers they were assigned. And they had some great mentoring sessions.
so how are those mentees selected? Or not mentees, I guess mentors.
That
The
I'm not,
mentee is who's being mentored.
that I'm not
So is it-
sure because that was done
Oh.
before I got here.
We were asked to volunteer.
Okay,
There were several that were asked to volunteer. And so, and the teachers that were in charge of that, the MEA members that were in charge of that mentor program did a fabulous job getting volunteers and getting it put together so that it can continue to go.
because I've had people ask me, how do I get involved with the mentor teacher program? How do I become a mentor? And so I said, I don't know how you do that, but you can contact these mentors, the people who are in charge of the mentor program, and ask them how they select them. And so we didn't know, are they selected by the school principal? Are they selected? So you're saying, Glenn, that the people who are selected through those in charge of the mentor program? Or is it a joint effort with the district, or?
Well, there were volunteers asked. For instance, we had new math teachers at the 7th grade level. So I was asked to mentor my 7th grade level math teacher. There were new teachers at the 8th grade math level. So they were asked to volunteer. It was actually put out for everybody, anyone who would like to volunteer for being a mentor teacher to volunteer. And in the end, I think they had to ask specific people to do it. So, and they try to match them up with the teachers that are teaching side by side with.
Okay. So was that the whole district was asked or just your school?
No, that's just my school. I'm just talking about the middle school. I don't know how it went there, but that only makes sense to match them up with teachers that they're working with or their grade level teachers, because you don't want to.
Sure, absolutely.
Match a PE teacher with a first grade teacher. I don't. You may have to, but they tried to match them up that way, and I thought they did an excellent job of getting them pulled together.
Right. Okay. So, then are we okay with that language that Dr. Reberry
I
suggested?
think so. I think if the MEA president is given information on how it's going and stuff, I think that's fine.
And Cheryl?
I was processing.
That's okay.
I think that's probably a good starting place, and then just reevaluate it as we work through the next school year and make sure things are working the way we thought the intent was.
Okay. All right. Do you have that verbiage down?
Yes, MEA president shall be provided information throughout the year.
Right. Okay. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing all right.
9:14.
Okay. Is everybody doing all right?
Yep.
Okay. On page 26, certificated employee workday. And we were discussing workday length, and we just wanted to clarify basically in this section what a 5-day work week is. We just wanted to add the language based on a full 5-day work week, Monday through Friday. And then Dr. Reberry asked about doing 50 minutes each day, and we just basically tabled this to come back. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, is the district still suggesting 50 minutes a day?
Well, I've been thinking through this. Alicia, you had some thoughts too, I think, right?
Yeah, I feel like we should leave it based on a 5-day work week. And if you want to specify Monday through Friday, that would be the best.
Okay.
Why, can I
Right.
ask Shannon why they want the word
Mhm.
full 5-day work week on there?
Well,
Because it's,
just to make sure it's Monday through Friday, I guess, basically.
Okay.
We don't have to have full.
I was just curious.
Monday
if
through
there-
Friday.
Usually the language is very specific, so I just wondered if there was a specific reason why it said full, so. But yeah, I'm fine with it being Monday through Friday if everyone else is.
Okay. So it will read, this shall include a minimum of 250 duty-free minutes a week for preparation time based on a 5-day work week, Monday through Friday. And actually, we proposed that language, so we're good with it if the district side is good with it.
I'm good with it.
This is worse than a PE class.
Okay, so I can put in a note that all sides agree. We're adding Monday through Friday to define the work week.
Yes.
Hello.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward, also we had discussed, in that section, adding, staff will not be required to read or respond to emails outside of contract hours. And, I believe, Trustee McConkey brought it up in emergency situations. And in emergency situations, we were thinking about this, that Skyward does alert us on emergency situations. And I mean, I have received, like, if it's a snow day or if it's actually even like a bomb threat at the high school, I get Skyward alert. And so we were thinking that actually takes care of that emergency situation. And we just want to make sure that, and even if it read something about teachers should not be held accountable and or reprimanded for not reading or responding to emails outside of contract hours.
I just struggle putting that language in there. I feel like, I mean, I'm not saying it should be required for anyone to, work outside their work hours, but even for my husband, when he's not on call, he's a nurse practitioner, he still checks with his boss or talks to patients outside of hours, even though he's not getting paid for it, even though he's not, because that's just part of his profession, right? Like, that's just how he is and what he does to be professional. And I just don't know if the best place to address that is in the master negotiated agreement. I feel like that's something that's procedural and specific to each individual and their administrators and their relationship with each other. I just have a hard time putting that in writing for a whole district when I feel like what if teachers like to talk to their parents after hours, or that's when the parents can meet and they need to be emailing back and forth, or the administrator, something comes up and a staff member passes away, or there's an emergency and they need to have an emergency 5-minute meeting. You wouldn't get notified through Skyward if your principal sent a last-minute email that said, hey, we have this last-minute staff meeting we got to show up to. It's 5 minutes. It'll be right before school. No big deal. I don't think you should get reprimanded if you don't make it, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's appropriate to put in here that you won't be held accountable or shouldn't have to even be responsible for any of that because it happened after work hours. Does that make sense?
And teachers do. Yes, it does make sense. And teachers do. I mean, I do. I know all of us do. We do, but we are on, we contact parents. We are in contact with, each other all the time. We just wanted to make sure that we are not reprimanded. Like Glenn mentioned, if we were on vacation somewhere, and I spend a lot of time in the mountains where there is no cell service and I cannot read an email. We want to make sure we're not reprimanded in the case that I didn't read my email because I did not have cell service. That's our concern. That's the main concern.
If you're being reprimanded because you were out of town and you didn't get to it, then that's a different issue that we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah, is there history here that we're not aware of?
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand why this would ever be something included in a
Well,
negotiated agreement.
It was brought up as a concern in our, when we gather information on concerns, and a concern was that, and so I don't know if it happened, but all I know is a concern was brought forward that when somebody is away, that they should not be reprimanded or in trouble or get marked down or whatever just because they didn't respond or read an email outside of contract hours.
I think I said it last time. I think this is something that needs to be handled through procedures, and we will take care of that at the level with the administrators to make sure that people aren't being reprimanded if you're gone for the weekend or camping. But just know that being professionals, like I do, I go out of cell service and stuff, but as soon as I get back in, I just check.
Well, and I think that most of us, even on the district level, understand that I think most teachers go over and above. I would have never thought this would be a concern. And like you said, if someone's being punished, then that's a different issue. I think all of us, with the age of technology, are expected or just do maintain contact or review. And usually on a salaried position, that's just kind of a given, that your hours are not a straight 8 to 5. And I know many of you, I know lots of teachers put in tons of their personal time. And so I don't think this would be something the district would include in the agreement. There's professional standards and behavior and that applies to an administrator. If they're reprimanding an employee for something like that, then that goes against their professionalism. And so I think that's something that should be dealt with on an individual basis.
Yeah.
It's certainly not something that, you put something like that in the contract, then how would you ever, defend it or
Right.
I don't know. I feel like, well, then you're going to be punished because you did look at your email or you sent an email outside of office hours. I think it would just open such a can of worms that shows a lack of.
Well, and like I said, I mean, even if we added language that just said would not be reprimanded, not necessarily, just.
Again, I think
making
this is procedural that we need to take care of
On a
case-by-case basis. And we will definitely be having this conversation with the administrators.
So Cheryl and Glenn, how are your thoughts? Since this was brought forward to us.
Well, and I would say, I just want to add one more thing. I mean, honestly, if this is really an issue, then it needs to come to HR. And we need to be notified if this is really happening out there.
So I really appreciate the example with the nurse practitioner and how professionals sometimes have to do things on the evenings and weekends, and recognizing that our teachers do that often now more than ever. I also appreciate noting that it might be something better handled through procedure. If it's not happening across the board at all the schools, just keeping it simple, I can agree with that.
And is there, okay, my question is, so in procedures, I know Boise, Nampa, they have procedural handbooks for classified, certified, and administrative. So what is the procedure? So like, where would this exactly, where would this be written?
In my mind, this is something where I work with administrators on the procedures that they're implementing in their buildings. And so we will start with that level. And again, this sounds more like if this is happening, this is an HR problem that we need to deal with. So.
Okay, so it will be though written in a procedure somewhere?
I don't want to say that right now because I don't know where any of that is, but it will be discussed and talked about.
Well, I feel like it's like any other issue where you feel as an employee that somehow your rights were infringed on, or you were treated unprofessionally, that you would follow the chain of command. And if it was your building principal, then I would think you would contact Kristen as the HR and discuss whether you have a viable, grievance and concern, at which we have a very specific grievance procedure and policies and laws. And to me, this would fall under that. If someone's feeling that they're being improperly, in some way damaged or treated poorly because they didn't respond to an email because I was camping for a week, I think they would have a valid concern and should go to Kristen and pursue it as a grievance, or at least give an opportunity for it to be resolved. If we start documenting specific little areas that a person could be mistreated or handled improperly, you create something that's impossible to maintain and manage. That I think all of our staff should be encouraged. That's why we have an HR officer, is to help with these type of situations. And usually it's a misunderstanding, I would hope. But if it's not, then it needs to be definitely brought, because I think there's probably circumstances where someone overreacts or someone's being, I hate to use the word bullied, but maybe that applies. And so that needs to most definitely be brought to the HR's attention. And it's not a contract issue. That's just a business issue. I mean, that's behavioral, and any employee has that right, whether it's a certificated or a classified employee.
Okay, so I just want to, and I know as a negotiator and former MEA president, when we do talk about in negotiations about the administration or the district, we'll talk to administration and have discussions, and that just, I just know that previously it is discussed and then it is forgotten, or, so I just want to make sure that somehow we have, like, if you could tell us when you discussed it with admin, that I will do it on this date, just so we can go back to our member and say, this is going to be discussed, and you should we'll tell them that they should go to HR if this happens. But if you could just tell us like when it would be discussed, that way we can say if it was discussed, we know for a fact. That would be fine.
My intent is to discuss it at an administrators meeting in the near future. I don't have the exact day, time yet that will occur, but I do have it on my ongoing list of items for administrators.
Okay. All right. And if you could just, could we, or maybe I could have, after it was discussed with administration, maybe you have monthly meetings with the MEA president and the vice president, correct, Dr. Reberry?
Yes.
Could you let them know when that discussion has occurred? Then we'll know.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Okay, so moving forward, we were at, let's see, flip over to page 27. And on letter C, the parent-teacher conferences, I think I found out why one elementary school had to start earlier, and it's their conference time. We were discussing the number of students, but actually conference times are not consistent amongst the elementary. So Purple Sage has 10-minute conference times, and I forgot to check with Heights to see what theirs is. And I know Mill Creek has 20-minute conference times. So it's actually what's happening too is we're not consistent with the conference times. So that could be where some of the issues are happening in the schools. And I just want to give a little bit of background since I've been here for a while. So we used to have, and it was as an elementary teacher, when I was teaching 4th grade at Purple Sage, we would have 20-minute blocks for parent-teacher conferences, which was very nice because parents could come in and you could sit down, you could visit about the report card. You had plenty of time to actually dive in deep into a student's needs and not feel rushed. And so we had 20-minute time slots. And if you have a student-led conference, which a lot of us do, that takes even more time. And what happened was when the district during the recession and we had to cut time, we had 18 furlough days, and we still have 3 that we're missing and never got back, by the way. But we had to crunch everything. And so what happened is what we used to do is we would teach for a full day. And then that evening we would have parent-teacher conferences. Then the next day, the students weren't there. We would have a half-day PD, and then we would start conferences again right after lunch. So we had all that time in there within that day. And actually, no, we might have even started a little before lunch. We might have started at 10, but we had a little bit of PD and at the building, and then we started conferences. And so that gave us more time, and we didn't have to teach. And I just want to explain how hard it is as an elementary teacher. And I don't know, and Glenn, well, no, it's different at the middle school than it is, but as an elementary teacher, to teach all day with your students and then have conferences at night, go home, wake up the next day, teach another full day of school, and have conferences in the evening is killer because just
Shannon, correct
doing
me if I'm wrong though, but that second day is only a half day, right? Or
is it short?
yeah.
It's a short day.
They do leave at noon? Okay,
Yeah,
so they do have,
that's-
okay, but they do teach in the morning though, right?
Yeah, which I'll be
They do
honest,
teach in the morning.
this is how it's been done in every district that I've been in. When I was a teacher, principal, I've seen it, the first night evening conferences, the next day half day of school, conferences till whatever the time till 7 again, and then the next day off.
Then it's no school. Yeah.
Yeah, no school. And that's how it's been done
Okay.
in all the districts that I've been in.
Okay, were the conferences 10 minutes or 20?
Actually, in all the other districts I've been in, they've been 15 minutes. And I know in Boise, they're 15 minutes.
Okay, because 10 minutes actually is not enough time
Yeah,
to,
I would agree 10 minutes is short.
yeah, I mean, you get over you go through, it used to be, but report cards are at a different time now, but we'd go through the report card and boom, you're done. And it's like, and if a parent's late, which happens very often, then you're cut even short. So what we would like is we would like just to be consistent, even with the time. Could we move it from taking 20 minutes in one school, 10 minutes in another school? Can we conform to 15 minutes?
Yeah, I don't see why we can't do that.
My only concern for me making that decision, for me personally be involved in that decision is I don't know why it is what it is. Like, I don't want to punish the people if they like their teachers having 20. I don't want to say, well, sorry, now you only get 15. Whether you like 20 or not, you get 15. Like, I just don't know if that's something that I personally feel like I should be involved in, or if it should be left up to, you know, the principals and the teachers to decide what's best for their school and their students.
And I'm comfortable with that. And again, that can be a conversation that we have, Shannon, that I have with the administrators, to get input from their buildings on the length of the conferences.
This is Cheryl jumping in really quick. Just a high school perspective on conferences. I know it's nice to have the conversations with administrators, what's going to work best for you. Our administrators done that, trying to make sure, just with the frustrations we've had sometimes the low turnout for conferences, how can we make this better? So I think leaving it up to the building could be a good idea as long as there's a process for that and everybody agrees that it's fair.
I mean, we could even say we would like to see their proposed plan for conferences presented, you know, when they meet with their one-on-ones with Sharon. So it's, you know, something that's written out and they've said, we've talked to our staff, this is what we've come up, our plan for parent-teacher conferences we're going to try this year. Every school and their dynamics of their students and their families is different. Some work, some don't, some have all working, some have lots of stay at home. So trying to make a one-size-fits-all for a whole district, I feel like is really hard. And I don't want to punish teachers or administrators or parents by trying to put them in a box, if that makes sense.
Okay, I would like to have teacher input for sure, absolutely. But yeah, we have not ever discussed or had a choice that I know of as far as our conference times. We got them cut down to 10 minutes and that's what they've been for a long time, for a real long time. So, and I do know that also there, and the other main concern here was on that Wednesday time, that teachers had at other schools had time built in because it was an early release on a Wednesday. They had that time to prepare for conferences and other teachers didn't. And that's where the concern really came up.
Well, and Shannon, I think that I visited with elementary administrators, and there were some teachers that wanted to get started right away because of the number of conferences that they had to do. And it's optional. They were not required to start earlier than what our calendar says. It was teachers going to the principal asking
If they could start
if they
earlier.
could start earlier.
Okay, because evidently some teachers must not have felt that it was an option because they were discussing their concern that other teachers in the district got that prep time or that time to prepare for conferences when they didn't. So evidently there must have been some miscommunication or something happening to bring this concern forward. So,
Again, I will have that conversation when we're talking about the timeframes with the principals and make sure that they do understand that if teachers choose on their own, but they don't tell them that they start before the designated start time unless they choose.
okay, and also then the conversation will be brought up as well that teachers or schools can decide upon their conference time length.
Yeah.
Okay,
And my suggestion would be like no shorter than 15 minutes, no longer than 20. And then they can propose that and work with their buildings.
okay, all right.
So we don't have to change any language in the contract. I just want to make sure my notes are correct.
Yep, nope.
Okay.
Okay, and then, let's see, let's go down to, okay, so on this, I just want to make sure we're clear on this too. This was the letter D down below where it says professional work year/calendar. A committee shall be formed consisting of the following stakeholders. It should be stakeholders, but one, at least 2 representatives from each of the 6 schools, one of which is an MEA member. We are in agreement that that is one, again, there's that language that we talked about prior. Does that mean 1 member or does that mean 1 of each? And the intended language is 1 of each, but it does lead to interpretation. Or does it not to you guys? Are you guys clear on that? Is that clear to everybody?
Well, we can just
Or
add
do
the
we need to
words
add one
from each
of the
building.
2?
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
think we
clear
can
to me,
clear it
but
up.
we can clear it up. One of which.
I do have a question though, Shannon. Who determines, we
Mhm.
don't know who MEA members are and who isn't. So who verifies that or who decides that?
Well, it would just be verified through the MEA. So you would, the district would just contact Stephanie or whoever is the MEA president and say, we need to just verify. And I believe that's what you did, Dr. Reberry, is just verified it through Stephanie. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the language is fine.
So do we want to not make it consistent to the other language or leave it?
Since this is a technical document, I would say we make it the same, just so it's consistent, it's parallel throughout the document. Otherwise, it sounds like one maybe is different than the other one.
I don't have a problem doing that.
Okay, so we agree that we can make it consistent with the other language, correct?
Yep.
Is that a yes, a no?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Oh, and one other thing, I forgot, I was going to talk to you guys about Also, we have True Time, which I did the after-school reading program, and Lori Buckway, I know True Time is what classified employees use, but I was just thinking, I don't know, you might want to talk to Lori, but with our the extra duty leave for high school, you know how it talks about the form. It was really easy for me to go into True Time, and she just adds a little clock for classified or for certified, and I just clicked on that. I add my number of the time that I spent after school at the after school program, and actually it is verified through the administrator. So that might be even easier on paperwork for the school anyhow, and the district. I'm not sure. You might want to check with Lori rather than paper. I just wanted to give you guys.
Well, I think we can look
the
into,
other
that,
teachers sign
Shannon. We can look into it just to see, but we have to have both teachers sign off on the form. So, but we'll look into it.
Okay. Okay, and then I wanted to, last time I stopped where I felt like we had spent enough time. And so I want to pick up from there. And we would like to add a section. And if you look in the negotiated agreement on page 27, Section 8 starts to conformity to law. We would like to add a section in there. And we would like to add Section 8, disciplinary procedures. And this I got from West Data, and also I got some language from Nampa School District. And what this does is it lays out a fair and equitable process for employees concerning discipline, and it helps admin have a clear and concise, consistent guidelines on how to go about disciplining employees. And what and it's really hard being on the phone and not being able to show you, but what I have is in Section 8, if it were disciplinary procedures, there would be an A and a B. A would be progressive discipline, and B would be personnel file, two separate subcategories. The first category being progressive discipline, and then it at the top would say, except in cases warranting immediate discharge, progressive discipline shall ordinarily proceed as follows. Step 1, oral warning. Step 2, formal written warning. Step 3, letter of reprimand / concern. Step 4, plan of improvement. Step 5, probation subject to the provisions of Middleton School District Policy 5045, which is probation / remediation in Idaho Code. And step 6, termination. These steps, again, if common instances occur within a greater time span of 3 years. So what this basically does is helps administration with a clear and concise, and it makes it fair and equitable amongst the district. So you don't have one administrator at somewhere else that is maybe not consistent, or they're not all on the same page. And it just clarifies it for everybody, employees and administration. On the second part, personnel file,
this language actually came out of NAMPA. The official personnel file for each employee will be maintained at the, and we would put MSD, Human Resources Department, or I don't know, district office. Material placed in the personnel file must be dated. At reasonable intervals, an employee will have the right to review documents in his/her file. All employees will be notified within 30 days of receipt by Human Resources of any disciplinary materials added to the personnel file that the employee has not personally requested to be added. Employees have the right to respond in writing to documentation placed in his/her file within 15 days of receiving the disciplinary action. This response will be placed in the personnel file attached to the disciplinary action. Items may be removed from the file by mutual consent of the employee and the superintendent or designee. And what I can do is send you
Shannon, I think
these documents.
yeah, send them because I believe this is addressed in Idaho code. I mean, we can't suppress information from personnel files. I mean, and
Or allowed to be
nothing,
removed.
or yeah, and nothing goes into personnel files that isn't put through the district office first, because there has to be consistency.
Mhm.
I also think it's covered through the handbook and district policy, if I'm not mistaken.
So in employee handbook, the employee handbook,
Isn't there a section on discipline in employee handbook?
I need to do some research, Alicia.
Okay,
And I'm not, Shannon, you said West Ada, but I'm not finding it in their negotiated agreement.
I can find that for you and send that.
Yeah, and this would probably be something I need to check with the attorney on too, because I do believe this is addressed in Idaho code.
Okay. Yeah, I can send you, everything.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Okay, and then, it just takes so long to do this through the phone. We had, and I didn't, basically this is what I had for today, but there are still some things, and some issues, that we haven't covered. The calendar, I know we need to talk about, but I'm not sure if you want to discuss calendar until we figure out salary. We might need to say that, for then. Also, we wanted to talk a little bit about caseload and class sizes. And I don't know if we want to wait and do that with salary. If it affects, if it has an effect, or if you want me to keep going.
I think it would be in the best interest to wait because what money we do or don't get will affect probably teachers, EAs, everything and how many we'll have. So I think we need to have that conversation all at the same time so we're all on the same page with the same information.
Should be.
Okay.
That's just my vote, but if everyone else. thinks
No,
we should do it now,
I would say
that's it.
we can wait, Alicia.
Okay, so I will send you this language proposal and, where I found it. And then, can we set a time to come back and discuss this piece?
I'm fine with that, but I think Cheryl and Sharon, I think it depends on you guys and how much budget and other meetings and stuff you guys have when you guys would be available and how much time you need to research it.
Yeah, I will need some time to research it, and budget stuff is,
Yeah, we still don't know. I know the state is pushing hard to let us know the 1st of May, or hopefully what the funding model is going to look like, what the holdbacks, which particular areas are going to be held back. So I don't know if we want to wait till we have some information to schedule the next meeting, or go ahead and schedule one, or I don't. If there are other items that are strictly, the written word in the agreement that's not with money, I mean, maybe list those off so we can all research them and then go ahead and set a next meeting. Because it's really hard to discuss anything that's financial if we have no idea what our funding is going to be yet.
Right.
So, but if there are other items in the agreement itself that you want to talk about, I guess list those, send out the stuff that you're talking about under the conformity to law, and then I would say go ahead and get something on the books, because
yeah.
we don't have a lot of time here.
Okay, I can send you, like I said, I'll send the information from the disciplinary procedures, and then I'll send you some items that we have for, like, one concern was personal days. Since since school was not in session, half of March, April, and most of May, we had, people that had personal days, and those, I know Lori Buckway sent out an email last week or just yesterday? I don't know what it was, but sent out an email, and we have to let the district know by May 31st whether we want to, and each personal day counts as $100. We either have to get reimbursed for the personal days we haven't used, or we can roll over 2. And we've had people bring us concerns that they were planning on, like graduation, their kids' graduation, and different things happening. They saved personal days. And so we wanted to talk about possibly just about rolling over additional personal days, just because as of right now, you can only roll over 2. And because of the situation that happened this year, if they could roll over additional days. So that was another topic that we wanted to discuss. If, we don't have to discuss it today, or we could bring that forward next time, whatever you think.
Well, this is Cheryl. I would just interject one thing, that would put additional financial burden on the district for next year, in a year that we're already looking at severe cuts, both from added subcosts or paying them out at the end of next year. So I just think we need to look at that carefully.
So you're saying because of the budget year ending June 30th?
No,
Is that-
well, no, she's saying next year, because
if you allow them to roll additional days over, they can take more personal days next year, which increases our subcosts, or we end up having to pay them out at the end of next year, which increases the spending on a year that we're already looking at dramatic cuts. I would hate to see us increase our financial burden for next year by doing anything this year. I think we should just follow our same procedure and pay people out or allow them to roll their 2 days. This
Well,
was,
and they only get a certain number of days. So, I mean, you either have to pay them out now or then. So you see what I'm saying? They still get the same amount of personal days.
but I'm saying if you
Right.
roll them, and then allow them to take it next year, then we have to pay another day of sub. And then if they don't use it, we'll have to pay them out the end of next year. So you're just pushing the financial burden to next year in a year that we're already looking at dramatic cuts. So I mean, everyone is in the same situation where they didn't have the opportunity to use those days this year, but they didn't have to use those days. And so I wouldn't be in support of adding.
No, I wouldn't be in support of adding financial burden to next year. Alicia?
Yeah, I think we have money budgeted this year, like our budget's still on track this year. So, and you know, since we already pay those guys, plan on paying out the days if they don't have them, then it would be better for us to just stick with the plan for this year, because next year we can't guarantee that they'll even get paid out for extra days. I mean, we just don't know what next year is going to look like. So I think we need to just stay on track for how it's set up for this year, because we're planned for that.
Okay, well, yeah, I wasn't even actually, well, that was a concern that teachers brought forward, was, you know, they had planned on those days, and instead of, as it is now, rolling over 2 days, you know, we just wanted to be able to roll over one more day into next year, so that it could be used, rather than, and actually, actually, if we get paid $100 for a personal day and a substitute is how much?
Well, the maximum, it depends on what they are, but the maximum is $100, but you're paid out $97 per the agreement.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same amount to pay for a sub as it is.
That's why we pay you out
Yeah.
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That is why we allow you to
Right.
pay it out. We just need to pay it out this year, not next year.
Okay, Glenn and Cheryl, did you have anything to add on that?
I don't.
I don't either.
Okay. All right, we will tell them, sorry, you got to take them or have them paid out, but you can roll over 2.
Correct.
Yes.
And then, do we want to set a date then to go over this disciplinary procedures?
Yeah, let me look at calendar. What do you want? I got your. What are you thinking?
I mean, whenever I can do.
Couldn't we do that at the beginning of the budget, when we start looking at the budget meeting?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
there's
it's up to them.
also,
some calendar and like class size issues. I don't think the progressive discipline language would take, like, we wouldn't need a 2-hour block. I'm thinking maybe, what, half hour, 45 minutes? If we could block out that amount of time.
Yeah, that's fine, 45 minutes.
Okay.
Can you give me an idea of what you are wanting to talk about on the calendar?
Yes, and actually, can I email that to you, Dr. Reberry, because I don't have it all, I don't have it all like laying in front of me right now.
That's fine.
But I will email that as well.
Okay. What if we look at Wednesday, the 6th?
I have a,
Okay, or Thursday, the 7th?
I mean, I can't other than. I have an appointment,
Either day works for me.
but other than
I'm
that,
fine
I
with
can-
either day.
I can do that.
Let's look at the 7th.
Yeah, I'm open all day.
We can just go 8:30 to 9:15?
On the 7th,
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. That works for me.
okay.
Good for me.
And me as well.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.